Hello, this is Windsor Lindor. I am not speaking to you as a man with a title. I am speaking as a leader who honors a dynamic mindset, a leader who understands that life is a theater. And each day I write the parts for the leader and the characters I play. From the film Scent of a Woman, there's a line that stayed with me for years, and it goes this way. There is nothing like the sight of an amputated spirit. There is no prosthetic for that. An amputated spirit and leadership is rarely dramatic. It is subtle. It is quiet erosion. It is authority without alignment. It is strategy without soul. It is urgency without depth. It is performance without principle. You can possess position and still lack power. You can hold authority and still lack coherence. Yes, you can command attention and still lack internal stability. For sustainable leadership requires internal architecture. Yes, it requires structure beneath decisions, structure beneath responses, structure beneath execution, structure beneath outcomes. Without that structure, leadership fractures under pressure. An inner revolution must take place for creative leadership to mature, not through intensity, through inner order, through mindfulness, through creative courage, through disciplined intelligence. See, for more than 20 years, I have partnered with leaders navigating complexity, transition, and expansion. I have observed one defining difference between sustainable leaders and reactive leaders, and it is architecture. The sustainable leader has strengthened the structure beneath the authority. The reactive leader is governed by circumstance. Here is the center of gravity I return to again and again, again and again. Awareness reveals disconnect. Creative courage repairs them. It's where architecture sustains the repair. Persistence moves the structure forward. Leadership is a current. You see, some currents are reactive, and some are ego-driven. Some are fueled by fear. Some are fueled by comparison. Some are fueled by exhaustion. Other currents are intentional, regulated, rooted in clarity, grounded in principle. The current you live in determines the culture you create. Allow me to introduce you the stabilizing currents that shape creative leadership. As I move through each one, I invite you to notice where you feel resonance. Notice where you feel tension. That awareness is information. Let us start with soul caring. It is the commitment to steward people, purpose, and systems with reverence. For every conversation shapes identity. Every directive shapes culture. Every decision shapes trajectory. Yes, soul caring. It does not weaken standards, it strengthens them by placing dignity at the center. Well, you see, when you operate from soul caring, you ask, what is the human cost of this decision? What is the long-term impact of this tone? What does stewardship require in this moment? Oh, yes, soul caring. It protects people from being reduced to metrics. It protects culture from becoming transactional. It includes leadership and humanity without sacrificing excellence. Now, here's the bridge. You see, when you care deeply for people and purpose, your leadership must mature beyond sentiment. You see, care without structure creates confusion. Care without standards creates drift. This is where the next current enters, and it is soulful love. You see, soulful love and leadership is courageous goodwill. It is the deliberate decision to seek the highest development of those entrusted to your influence. Soulful love holds boundaries with steadiness. It protects standards with grace. It chooses growth over comfort. It chooses long-term development over short-term approval. Oh yes, soulful love. It asks, what does growth require here? What does accountability require here? What does integrity require here? You see, this current elevates people into capacity. It refuses dependency. It cultivates dignity and self-respect. Now, I would like you to consider this. See, when you love with courage, you must speak with clarity. Love without truth creates distortion. Goodwill without transparency creates misalignment. And that leads us to the next current. Yes, radical honesty. It is alignment between internal truth and external expression, for it eliminates performance. It removes distortion. It clarifies expectations. It strengthens trust. Radical honesty begins within. What is misaligned? What is drifting? What am I avoiding? Where has comfort replaced clarity? When leaders practice radical honesty, confusion decreases and responsibility increases. Truth is delivered with precision. Correction is delivered with maturity. Governance becomes transparent rather than political. Now, there is the bridge. Truth spoken without understanding can wound. For clarity delivered without perspective can fracture relationships. So the next current ensures truth is carried wisely. It is empathy. Yes, it is emotional intelligence in motion. It is the discipline of understanding perspective before forming conclusion. Empathy. It regulates reaction. It stabilizes conversations. It creates space for truth to surface without collapse. Yes, empathy. It asks, Help me understand your experience. Help me understand what matters to you here. Help me understand what you need in order to stay aligned with excellence. Empathy strengthens influence without lowering standards. It refines authority into connection. Yet, understanding others requires understanding yourself, and that brings us to the core internal current. Yes, it is self-awareness. It is the leader's internal audit system. Notice the shift in tone. Notice the tightening body. Notice the accelerating thoughts. Notice the narrative forming. This is where awareness reveals disconnect. For without self-awareness, leadership becomes projection. With self-awareness, leadership becomes stewardship. You begin to see where ego is speaking louder than purpose. You begin to notice where urgency is replacing intention. Once you see the disconnect, courage is required. Yes, courage demands consistency that leads us directly into the next stabilizing force. Yes, discipline. Discipline is structured consistency. It is devotion to values expressed through daily action. Discipline converts intention into measurable progress. It sustains execution when motivation fluctuates. It protects standards when pressure rises. Discipline. It is not harshness. It is alignment and rhythm. It is the bridge between what you value and what you produce. Persistence moves the structure forward. Discipline. Discipline without emotional awareness can become rigid. Execution without inner acknowledgement can create internal fracture. This is where we must invite the next current. Emotional truth. It is the willingness to acknowledge internal reality without distortion. Yes, I feel stretched. I feel pressure. I feel disappointment. I feel responsibility. Emotion becomes information. It does not become the driver. Emotional truth prevents silent erosion. It prevents suppressed tension from leaking into tone and decision making. When leaders honor emotional truth, they create cultures where grounded stability replaces hidden turbulence. And when you recognize both your own humanity and the humanity of others, you are ready for the final stabilizing current, and which is compassion. It is strength applied with understanding. Compassion, of course, recognizes imperfection without lowering standards. It supports growth without enabling stagnation. It delivers accountability without humiliation. Yes, compassion. Protects people from fear-based cultures. It transforms correction into development. It matures authority into mentorship. Compassion is leadership expressed through emotional maturity. These currents stabilize leadership under pressure. They refine influence. They shape culture. They anchor governance. They strengthen execution. Creative leadership emerges from inner order. When inner order is present, decisions become measured, communication becomes precise, accountability becomes constructive, strategy becomes sustainable. Here's a practice you can start today, or you can choose to start today. You see, before responding, you are invited to pause. Before correcting, regulate. Before deciding, do your best to align with principle. Before leading others, do what you must to examine your own architecture. For inner clarity precedes outer excellence. The world does not need more spectacle. The world needs leaders grounded in character. Leaders who understand that authority without internal architecture eventually fractures. Now, if this message resonates with you and you are committed to strengthening your internal architecture, you are inclusively invited to explore our leadership development programs where we build resilience, we refine emotional intelligence, yes, we cultivate presence, we reinforce skill and character until excellence becomes culture. So go ahead, visit lindorconsulting.com. For leadership is not a moment, leadership is a current. Choose wisely. For inner clarity, it's outer impact. This is Windsor Lindor. Thank you for listening.